All right. Hello. Welcome everyone back to a very frosty February edition, at least where I am, not where Big K is. Happy
no
hour
idea.
show.
Happy.
What's that?
I'm glad. I said I have no idea about that. That's
Yeah. You're just sunglasses and happy sunshine all the time with nice beverages, and yeah, that'll be me next week, sir. Next week,
indeed, sir.
my time is a coming. So
It's a beautiful day today where I'm at.
nice, little
Breezy, cool, just a little cool, not like cold, but like 77 cool.
A little jealous. Well, hey man, how you been?
Oh, I've been doing great. Great.
Yeah. Well,
Lots
like
of fun things to play with. Tons of fun stuff we get to talk about.
We got a lot to talk about because there's a lot that's happened since the last time we were on. And welcome, if I didn't make it clear, this is the Happy Hour show. Fun, finance, formal, but informative, but informal.
There it is.
Something like that. And we were supposed to have Shill Gates on. He called in sick, so get better, Shilly. And a lot of that's been going around like nasty. I know, I don't know, probably a dozen people with the bug. So prevalent in these cold parts.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but I hope to escape to warmer weather without getting it first. And Stoic from OX Coast supposed to be here anytime, so we will see that. We might have another guest pop on for some commentary, not sure. But we also have an OG Hexagon backstage. Been on the show before, but it's been a minute. And people are guessing in the chat as to who it is. And I can tell you that it is not Crypto Vince. So any other guesses out there? Hextronaut. Good to see you. Says he knows who it is. Who is it, Hextronaut? Let us know before we do the unveil, which will happen in a matter of seconds. So, man, this is a Hex OG. It was good talking to him in the green room, knowledgeable on a wide array of topics, including crypto, traditional markets, especially the RH ecosystem. He goes by name, and the letters of that name, Hextronaut does know JW. It is Mr. John Wick. How you doing, sir?
What's happening, guys? What's up, Mr. Hextronaut?
Yes. It's a good call.
Did you give him inside information, sir?
Yeah, he might be in a few chats on, man.
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
He's the resident dad who's trying to settle everyone down and keep order.
Yeah, he's an excellent, I guess, responder from the PulseChain community to a bunch of idiots out there, especially today, throwing around baseless accusations. So it's always good to read him defending the community. Let's just go over a couple bad guesses. No, it is not Wolverines. Bitches.
That's my guy.
And Kyle Barr, no, he sold the top and went away. So R.I.P. Kyle. Miss Kyle. Miss seeing him around on the stream or two, but I think there are reasons for that. If you know, you know. Oh, who else we got in the chat? We got Hex Monkey. What is going on? Paul Sachs, what's up? No, it was not Vince. Dan Smith, the chat room's worst comedian. Empty Corner, what's going on? Red Squirrel. We just had a raid from DJ Cryptomatic, who did our pregame show over on Twitch. So thank you, Mr. DJ. What's up, Nicole, who subbed over there? We're also on the YouTubes if you want to get in the main chat. Eric Coin, what's going on? Ewok. Oh, there she is.
You skipped one. My favorite one. Did Motley lose faith?
Where's that one?
He's up a little bit. Who is
up a little bit? 217.
I'm
Eric
missing
Coin. I see it.
Oh, there we go. Did Motley lose faith? Actually, you know what? I had a nice little phone conversation with him. I had not talked to him in a long time, and I guess he threw out a long tweet, pretty much with
Yeah.
some feelings that he, I guess, presented to me and presented them to the community. So that's how he feels. Everybody is entitled to their opinion, and yeah. So Motley's good. He is definitely involved in the ecosystem. He hasn't gone anywhere, and he actually said, he might hop on a stream if RH happens to hop on a stream. So RH, I know you're a fan of the show. When you come back, that brings Motley back as well. So Duke of Booze, what's going on?
Yeah, it's perfect timing for Richard to stream. There's hacks going on.
Yeah,
I
don't think
so-called.
I think he's been. My guess would be he's been advised against that until things clear. What are your guys' thoughts on that?
It's gotta be it, right?
Yeah,
I mean,
'cause
there's
he's
a
back
tweet.
by
There's
now.
a tweet storm a mile wide,
Right.
today that he's like got things to say.
Yeah, I think if we
got
had
a
a secret camera, he'd just be like, itching to get on and be like, "Come on, guys! I just want to stream. Like, want to say all this and put everybody in their place." And yeah, he's just got to do it by tweet right now.
Yeah, and I think he's significance driven. He said so. He definitely wants to be at the forefront, front and center, chilling, and it has to be a legal thing, most likely. Just nothing really good can come from it, only bad. So it seems like that's been his plan for a while. But with the Coinbase news today, their lawsuit basically got dropped and penalties waived. Lawyer fees waived, I think, too. That's really a really good sign just for the crypto space in general, because basically the administration is doing what they said they were going to do, actually following up on what they campaigned on, and have some decently smart people in those positions that actually understand crypto, and understand kind of what we're looking for and what we need moving forward, as far as like a regulatory framework goes. And yeah, you're seeing the complete financialization of all of Wall Street, hopping on the train and the bandwagon. To me, it looks like just maybe some of the bigger players are suppressing some of the prices on some of these larger coins like Bitcoin and Ethereum lately to fill their bags, because the Trumps have been buying, a lot of the institutions have been buying. So
BlackRock.
Yeah, BlackRock, Fidelity, all Paul Tudor Jones, the big hedge fund managers. So usually when they're accumulating and there's a lot of FUD, and altcoins are wrecked too, which is most of retail is in altcoins. It's a good chance that Richard will stream again, maybe this next year or so. I wouldn't be too optimistic anytime soon, but we could hope for obviously a positive result in the case. And if that happens, then I think shortly after that, then it would be possible that he would. But still, even then, I think crypto is in a great place regardless. And I think it's going to be an exciting year. And then next year, hopefully, it will last into next year too. So.
Curious as to why you think it will be later rather than sooner. You just think SEC stuff will take that much longer to get resolved?
Yeah, I think it might still take some time. I don't think it's going to be like an immediate thing. Obviously, Judge Carroll's taking her sweet time.
Yeah. Do you think we get something out of her, or is she waiting for clarity from the administration?
Yeah, I think it's probably that clarity from the administration, and also Richard's case is a little bit different than some of the other crypto cases, where it's like a very high-profile person, not necessarily the protocol. And there are fraud charges, so those are usually taken a little bit more seriously, misappropriating funds, stuff like that. So it could take a little bit longer, but everything is aligning well as far as, his lawyers, the competency of his lawyers, the fact that Elon's, working with the administration too, and has similar lawyers, a similar thesis about free speech and stuff like that. So that's all really bullish for his case in general. There's just going to be a lot of short-term volatility, it looks like, until ETH can really take off, because ETH is like 50% of its all-time highs right now, while Bitcoin, was breaking all-time highs a few months ago. So there's still a lot of room to run, and Vitalik according to Richard, needs to get his shit together. Hopefully
Do you, with that change that Vitalik did make, I guess, making ETH a little more scarce, do you think that was a direct result of Richard calling him out, or is that just a coincidence? Because I mean, Richard raised some pretty valuable points there, and yeah, it was like what, a week or two later that Vitalik came out and announced some tweaks.
Yeah, it's possible. I mean, but Richard was presenting data, which is, it's hard to refute the data,
right?
Like, it's like the L2s are not profitable; they're just a net seller. It's it's net negative. Clearly, the ETH Foundation can realize that they're not going to just put their head in the sand and pretend it's not happening. So I think maybe he did bring some awareness to it. To give him full credit or full causation that it was him that caused it, I wouldn't go that far. But he may have contributed or helped to that effect, perhaps, I would say. What do you think, Big K?
Yeah, I mean, it would. I think I have to agree. I mean, I don't know if it's going to be any different. I don't really have another thought on it, really.
All right, thank you.
My apologies.
No need to apologize, sir. So we kind of just touched on it really quick, but let's talk, I guess, the news story of the day, which is this Bybit hack. And of course, you have, it was absolutely hilarious, like people blaming it somehow on the most wanted man.
Oh, that was my favorite. That was my favorite of the day.
Yeah,
Truth something or another. Hilarious name for somebody who's like full of shit or doesn't know what he's talking about.
Truth Labs,
whatever that. Yeah,
at Boring Sleuth. So feel free to troll him along with Hextronaut if you would like.
Cooking there, Truth Labs. Keep cooking, bro.
Yeah, Hextronaut is cooking him in his own thread. But yeah, I mean, the Richard Hart thing being funny aside, Mr. Wick, what are your thoughts on this? Because you were talking in the green room and you said you think it could possibly have been an inside job with the details that we have thus far. Of course, Zach XBT has supposedly traced it back to the Lazarus Group, Koreans, I think. So what's your take on the forensics that we have so far?
Well, at first glance, it looked like an inside job because I think what the hack was something like the multi-signature for Bybit. Someone edited it prior to signing it, where it would like port to a new contract and then go to a new address instead of the existing address. So it had to have been someone on the inside or someone infiltrated some sort of. That's what it seemed like to me. But then, yeah, Zach CBT is saying it's more likely, and yeah, he's driven written the lines, connected the dots to the North Korea's Lazarus Group. But at this point, it's still fresh, and I haven't looked at all the on-chain stuff, nor will I, necessarily, because I'm not going to look at every detail. But that's what most likely it is, I guess. But the crazy thing is what Richard was talking about is how do you actually how do you realize that much amount of money without everyone watching you and looking at all the centralized exchanges where you would to then go deposit it? They could easily find you very quickly. It's KYC. But even then, it's like, how do you cash out? You could tornado cash it. But then what do you do after that? So yeah, it's interesting. But how much of it gets sold too is like
you could buy up some other wallets, some altcoin, and then send it to the fucking moon.
Yeah.
What if
altcoin you already hold?
Yeah, I mean, like, but you're not extracting a 1.5 billion with that shit. Like, maybe not even 10% of that. But.
Yeah, there's this tweet. Yeah. It's bullish for Ethereum if the exchange hacked for 1.4 billion decides to buy $400,000 ETH on the open market to make users whole. That's in addition to maybe never sold 1.4 billion of hacked ETH that hackers sometimes never sell. if the exchange doesn't buy the 400,000 ETH soon and ETH price goes up, it becomes much harder for them to make ETH depositors whole. What if, and whoever hacked this just burns the ETH? Like, what kind of craziness would that cause? Because, the ETH would be poof gone.
I mean, I feel like it would be in their best interest to just offer this dude 5 or 10% of it to just give it back.
Right.
Give it back. We'll give you 10%. And like that. I feel like that's worked, a few times over. I'd rather have, 1/10 of that wash, and clean money. I was a white hat. I was just fucking around, just showing you guys,
Or Pulse Latina, as Hextronaut says, or Gunther with Franklin.
Oh, you giving all them way too much credit, y'all.
Yes. Monkey thinks it was John Wick, so that's why he's here. He's here to confess his crimes. But yeah, just very interesting to say the least, and who knows what the next steps will amount to. But crypto, man.
The CEO came out and said, they're totally solvent. They have enough to cover it. But when did we hear that last time?
FTX said they were solvent.
They said the exact same thing. Deposits,
fund secure, bro.
Still going.
Yeah,
Binance has done it, but they were actually solvent. It's happened. Yeah, it seems like it's gonna just keep continuing to happen. But what's sad is, though, Bybit actually was one of like the better ones, I would say, from a just like user experience standpoint. And people would just, it's like it was easy, and it would take all types of cryptos and do so much volume and list all the altcoins too. Or hopefully, fortunately, let's hopefully it'll resolve itself. Just for all the users there. I know a lot of Hexkins and PulseChain's probably use Bybit, to be honest. So Hexkins were affected, I'm sure, by this. But I think they're still processing withdrawals, so you could at least try to withdraw money and see if they honor it right now. But yeah, if you're withdrawing ETH, might not be the best idea right now. Maybe just convert it to something else. But
that's, I mean, no matter what, if they say they've got their stuff on lock, I would just take my stuff out. Personally, I had shit on there, just take it out. I mean, what's the worst that could happen? You put it back in a little bit later, like, if they're gonna let you take shit out, I'd get it out of there. But who knows? You're already on a leverage exchange, so you know what you're doing.
Yes, indeed. What about, speaking of ETH, Mr. Wick? What do you think of just general crypto price action? I mean, you brought up like the majors. What are your thoughts on Bitcoin here at like 95K, ETH 2.6K? Where do you think we are? Because I guess everybody, a lot of people in crypto share the same viewpoints. Like, man, we thought ETH would be much closer to 4,000 by now at this point in the cycle, and it's just been the ultimate laggard. And then we have Bitcoin, which has been ripping. Compared to what it was, obviously it's kind of flagging out here, which hopefully could mean another leg up.
Bitcoin has been outperforming. Obviously, it's probably partly due to all of the the boomers buying the Wall Street products, and people that are skeptical, their first entry into crypto is usually going to be straight through Bitcoin. And now that you can buy it through an ETF, it's easy. It's one click, and it's the most reliable, safest crypto asset. That's how the market perceives it clearly. But from a macro global perspective, ETH has kind of it's usually Bitcoin leads the way, and then ETH lags behind, and then it kind of outperforms. That's what most people are expecting to happen eventually, I guess probably by summer or so. It seems like ETH has just been getting, obviously the ETH Foundation selling a lot, and often is not very good in general for optics too. But I think it seems like ETH's price is being suppressed purposefully, just because the ratio to Bitcoin is so super low and just keeps dying. It's terrible. And ETH still is a very quality asset. You can actually earn yield on it. All the lending stuff, we all know about all that stuff. So technically, it's better. You can earn yield on it, and the ETFs that are already launched and some that are going to launch in the future, they're going to try to include staking, which is a very huge bullish catalyst. Because if people are going to hold ETH on their treasuries or for their institutions or just for their balance sheets, and then they can earn yield on that, that's a game changer for institutions and for venture capitalists and sovereign wealth funds, etc. Because then it becomes a productive asset and it has a lot of more room to run relative to Bitcoin from a price performance perspective, right? Because it peaked around just under 5K last cycle. It has to at least triple probably, this cycle at peak, from the peak to peak. So 15K would be like for me a kind of a conservative estimate for ETH this cycle. But Bitcoin, I do see it going into the 200K range, to 300K range. Maybe not up to the high 300s. I'd say more 250, 240 is a better number, I think, this cycle. So yeah, I think everything's kind of playing out as expected. But ETH lagging a little bit is kind of unexpected. But Solana has been doing really well and has been outperforming. And Trump launched his meme coin there, which was a huge endorsement for the chain. And if you look at all the on-chain data there's a lot of activity there, a lot of monthly active users, daily active users, new wallets, new adoption, assets bridged over there. So if you look on chain, those assets. That's why maybe Solana's ETH's been bleeding to Solana Bitcoin is just because other people are looking for other things, and yeah, ETH it's just been lagging. Unfortunately for all of us, because we're a copy of ETH on PulseChain and still have assets on ETH too. But it's if you're still optimistic on the asset, then it's actually giving you a very long time to accumulate. Much below the previous all-time highs, longer than you would have ever imagined. So from that perspective, if people like the Trumps, World Liberty is accumulating here, buying clips at $10 million clips.
Yep.
That should be telling you something that these people are probably have something in store or planning something or have something in the works too. Especially with going back to this new administration, the new pro-crypto regulatory framework. And
the son of the president literally tweeting "Buy ETH, thank me later."
Yeah.
And then he took away the "thank me later" part, but yeah, and I think after that he said big things coming for Bitcoin as well. So
yeah.
who knows? But
then just tie it all together, you have a economic environment where quantitative tightening has occurred since 2022, and they've been drying up liquidity in the system. And rates, have remained higher than expected. So once rates drop, which Trump is also trying to force upon the Fed or force upon Jerome Powell, we'll see if that's effective or not. Because Jerome has clearly stated that he doesn't talk to the president at all. He doesn't have any relationships or communication with him. Whereas Trump is saying, "I'm telling Jerome to basically do what I say, or else." So we'll see what happens there. But if that does happen, then that's also a precursor to a lot of money printing and quantitative easing again. And when that happens, then you're going to start printing money, helicopter money, asset prices will rise, interest rates will come down, inflation will still be high, but hopefully tolerable. And then once the money printing comes back, then the prices of cryptos are going to rise even more. Faster than other risk-on assets once it becomes that environment. But right now, we're still not there yet.
And it might, and in times past, they've called things different things. So like they might just not call it a stimulus check, but Elon's already pushing for a the $5,000 Doge refund. That like would love that idea. Airdrop these people some free money, man.
And it's funny because I think the people who are like, "Oh, well, it's just gonna cause inflation like right back." Well, you realize that the checks in theory would be coming from a surplus that would already be designed to eliminate inflation. Like it's like it would be like 20% of all that is already saved. If that much is
I
cut,
personally don't. I don't care either way, man. I don't care if it's inflation.
You just want
to give them the money.
Yeah,
that's right.
I mean, if you own assets and you have assets and you have stuff that has potential to appreciate, then you're gonna like that environment where they print money, because you're not gonna really care if there's 5-10% inflation, because everything's gonna be going up 10x, right?
Yeah.
Or your real estate's gonna double, probably, whatever. So, but then if you're in the middle class or you're the non-asset class, that's going to hurt. 5K will help your short-term immediate needs, but it's going to hurt you in the long run because you're just falling behind even faster, because inflation is just going to accelerate, and the value of your dollars and the money saved in your 401k, et cetera, is worth less, much less, right? Even since COVID, if you just look at between COVID, which was 5 years ago now, which is crazy to think about. But since COVID, the inflation the net inflation between then and now is absurd, right? Like, it's been an insane run, and asset prices have all gone up. So I think that's only going to continue, but there's obviously going to be a lot of volatility, especially in crypto, of course, because it's the most volatile asset class known to man. So, but as long as the volatility is just trending to the upside, I don't think people are going to have a problem with it if inflation remains persistently high. So that's what I'm thinking right now.
Well, we at the top of the show said that we had a guest plan. One of them was Shilly Gates, so he called in sick. Get better, Shilly. But the other was Stoic from Coast, who I am sad to report is not able to join us. But Resolute is. How you doing, sir?
G'day, gents. How are you? Can you hear me all right?
We can.
Indeed.
So,
How you doing today?
Listen, apologies for really good, mate. And it's even better. I've been mates with Stoic for over 30 years. So to be able to get one over him when he has missed his commitment is just something I'll be able to give him rubbish for a bit of time. So thanks, guys. I really appreciate it.
No problem. I actually I messaged the stream usually the day of, but I made it a point just to throw it out there on Monday. I had some extra time, so I sent a reminder out so you can barb them about that too, and be like, "You got an extra reminder, sir."
Look, it's been a big year for us, and we've also all just had new children as well. So we've just got all sorts happening in our houses and workplaces. Yeah, thanks, it's awesome. But we're both burning the candle at both ends and juggling family life and work life, as I'm sure you guys are all aware. We both had one extra kid later in life, and we're really enjoying it. But we're not the 20-something-year-old fathers we used to be. So
those late ones will get you. I have friends who have been caught with some surprises themselves, and it is what it is. You got to roll with it, right? So,
It's great. I've only just jumped in the green room, so it was good to hear all the bullish sentiment. That was great to come in on the tail of, and I'm based over in Australia. We've been watching, all the Doge policy and the Doge, I guess, system roll out with a lot of curiosity over here, because we feel like there's a lot of governmental wastage here. So it's been quite shocking, really. And I was only talking yesterday with a friend over here about what the effect of any of the almost Doge dividend they were calling it's going to be. It's obviously great to have money in the pocket, but again, it can be an inflationary influence on assets and whatever else. But look, better in the hands of the people than the hands of corrupt politicians, as far as I'm concerned. So I guess it'll just have to play out the way it plays out. But yeah, really interesting in it. And from over here in Australia, it feels like America's back, boys.
As a firsthand witness, it certainly feels good to be back. It feels like we're on the right track, at least. Like things are moving. I think I've said this before. It's a totally different administration compared to the first one, because the president came in and he was an outsider and did not know who to trust, put a lot of the wrong people in the wrong places, and pretty much it just backfired, and they were sniping him behind his back. And this time it's almost like he the last 6 months, like just sat in Mar-a-Lago, played golf, and designed like everything for the first like 3-6 months, had it all written down and daily, and he's just going through it. So executive orders and policies, it's wild to witness. I think it's, nobody's moved faster.
It's certainly impressive, and there's going to be people who exist along the whole political spectrum, which is fine, right? That's the whole idea, is that everyone gets their own say and their own opinion. But you've got to respect the guy's work ethic at his age. I feel tighter than he looks right now, and I'm half his age. So you got to respect the bloke. He's got a lot of energy, and it seems like he's doing some good things.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, if you're a crypto holder, you're very happy with what's been going on lately, and the fact that
for sure,
are and AI too. To be honest, I'm glad that he's in that role. But at the same time, I'm not too overly excited about Trump yet, just because the tariffs worry me a little bit, just from a geopolitical perspective, kind of volatility perspective. It's hard to see kind of the downstream effects of these things right when they're happening, or they take a little time to play out. So, that's the only thing I'm cautious of so far. But as far as a investment standpoint, asset owner standpoint, and crypto standpoint, everything has been fantastic in the last few months.
Yeah, I certainly agree that the conditions geopolitically and are really setting up for it to be a really great year or two for us. So we're all really excited, even over here down under.
Nice.
Yeah. If we get the governments to buy our crypto bags, that would be super sick. Huge fan of that idea.
Well, speaking of government being friendly to crypto, I guess, along those lines, like maybe banks can start being friendly to crypto and those who deal with it, and maybe stop unbanking some people. And
I like how there's organizations, or like was the government that like organization that announced that they've actually been holding on to Bitcoin for a while. Like people are going to come out the woodwork and be like, oh yeah, actually we got some of that on a wallet too. You're going to have some of that happens.
So speaking of crypto and crypto-friendly banks and banks, Resolute, man, what do you have cooking? You and Stoic and the Coast crew, can you tell us a little bit? I've seen you, I guess, on some streams and on you guys on Twitter. But could you give our audience like a breakdown of what's going on and how we can get in, this on-ramp really cooking?
Yeah, for sure. So we've had a pretty simple goal for the last 2.5 years. And I mean, Stoic and I we saw the opportunity coming back off the back of the HEX performance to essentially bring all of our friends and family and contacts into DeFi and I guess, as we just described, the fastest appreciating asset class in history. So, reputationally, family-wise, friendships-wise, we've, got a lot of invested stake in this ecosystem. So our goal really has just been to try and bring, our effort and our resources into making PulseChain more valuable. And I guess sometimes we get lost in the weeds. I mean, when I say we, I mean the community in terms of thinks one thing is the most value adding versus another. So we all see that a little bit differently. But I mean, our goal over the last 2.5 years has simply been to try and bring capital onto chain. And primarily that's been through building and operating, the only fiat on-ramp, which has been, I think, pretty successful. It's definitely had many ups and downs, with sort of at least 1 foot heavily sitting within the traditional space. And the legacy payment rails comes with a whole heap of, I guess, counterparties, a whole heap of regulation and compliance requirements. And you mentioned debanking. We've certainly had a lot of, there's been some challenges with regards to institutional support, but that's all starting to improve now. And I think both on the back of a new administration and with some of the changing focus around some of the institutions, and we speak about one of them, Old Glory Bank, a lot, I do think we're starting to get to a position where our Our payment rails are extremely robust, and I think the sentiment around supporting digital assets is improving. And I only say that because we're in meetings with various banks on a regular basis, given some of the challenges we've had with, we're always looking for redundancy. So we're always speaking to other institutions, even when the ones that we have integrated are working fine. So I guess in summary, from a fiat on-ramp point of view, we've brought more than 30 million onto chain currently. And our product really, we're trying to optimize for cost and for sovereignty. So we're not, it was interesting. Richard made a tweet about 3 weeks ago that, fiat on ramps and exchanges should just link with DEX liquidity pools. And that's essentially what we've built. So, we've got a variety of options that allows people to bring international currencies or US dollars ultimately into a US dollar account, and then to buy PulseChain core assets directly, or simply mint CST to swap on decentralized exchanges or through DEX aggregators. And I think we believe very much in the core principles of crypto and self-custody, and that sometimes comes with a little bit of challenges for new users, as I'm sure that you guys have all experienced when onboarding people. We are all sold on the concept of self-custody and DeFi, but even, some of your close mates who eventually want to come and talk about crypto, they essentially just want to use their mobile phone on Coinbase, and it doesn't really matter who they are or how close they are. It almost seems like a challenging sell every time. But I guess we ultimately have built the product that we want to use day in, day out, and we hope that's useful for some people. We've got about 15,000 sort of users at this point, and we understand it won't be for everyone.
That's impressive. About 15,000 users. That's pretty good.
Yeah, well, it's to go back to what you were saying, Cabana, about banking. You may or may not have noticed we're starting to talk a bit about a particular bank, that being Old Glory Bank, and I guess we don't want to have our message mixed. We're crypto guys. We care a lot about crypto, but part of our journey over the last 3 years has been speaking with and meeting with institutions who more or less at a lot of stages have sent one of their junior office staff to come and speak to us with no real idea anything about crypto or financial rails, and we've really just been mucked around in many ways for for hours on end, weeks on end, months on end. And interestingly, we sort of came across Old Glory Bank, and they very much have a, I guess, constitution-based value pitch. And we spoke to them about PulseChain and the sacrifice for freedom of speech, freedom of movement, and we talked about the gatekeeping and some of the censorship. And their literal words are, "These are exactly the people we want to support." And instead of speaking with the junior level office staff, we speak with the C-suite executives. So on a multiple days a week basis, we're speaking with the leaders of that organization, and they really want to support our users and they want to, I guess, integrate the DeFi products that we're building into the evolving banking service that they're providing. So I guess that's what's led to some of the enthusiasm. We've just noticed a rapid shift from almost being treated like a semi-inconvenience by most financial institutions to essentially having a company spend their time, money, their research and design budget in trying to help us with the users that we're accommodating. And part of that's been we've brought them a lot of new customers, but they've also really got an aligned set of values, which, has made working with them really excellent. So it might seem at times like we're speaking, we're trying to promote a bank when, crypto, the entire design is to take over your own self-custody of assets and be your own bank. But it's just been a about-face shift in the sentiment and the support level that they've given us compared to others. So we've just been really excited.
That's really kick-ass to hear, because I know that you guys struggled early on finding some, partners in general, banking partners in general, and I know that's anybody who's been in crypto long enough has felt the the eye be super of the banking industry be super wary, and tough to deal with in general. So like, I mean, to see that that's changing for an institution like yourselves that are actually trying to, provide good services to customers, I mean, is awesome. Is awesome because, like, I mean, it's obviously there's places for your general average user to go nowadays, but not for everybody. I mean, the Pulse Chain has you guys. That's it, really.
Yeah, well, I think we live in an age where most people have a short attention span. Most people don't deep dive and take a lot of time to do a due diligence or research. And I think we've seen that, for me, viewing the last political election cycle, I would watch entire rallies and then I'd see them summarized on left-leaning media outlets in a completely sort of misrepresenting way. And I think that's happened, I guess, to our community and to our founder. And I think the first Google searches that you might read about PulseChain are probably not really aligned with, the truth in a lot of ways. And I think what we've found is we've found a lot of institutions don't do their research beyond the first 5 Google searches, and that has surprisingly and frustratingly led us to, just some extra difficulty layers. And, we've had to sign documentation to say that we don't accept money from Richard and all these different things coming off the back of the various SEC movements that happened over the last year or two. But just to come through to a new institution who, I guess their entire goal is to take the people who've been debanked, and that's become something much more in the popular narrative now, since I think it was Andreessen on Rogan really shined a light on that sort of corporate behaviour that was occurring and that political influence. And they're really leaning into that pitch of freedom and making sure that people have banking as a human right. And if you read their values through the Old Glory website, you sort of think, you almost feel like you're reading a core set of values from our community. So that sort of led to the initial conversations and back and forth, and we can only say that they've been really excellent. And there's not really been any suggestion that relationship might sour or become difficult. And look, there's times when, we'll have a conversation and they'll, ask us gently just to tighten our language on one thing or another so that they can keep their own, everyone's trying to look after their own compliance needs and make sure that, I guess, that, we're using the correct legal language. But that's the goal for that, is so that we can continue to move this banking relationship forward and continue to serve the customers that we have. So yeah, it's been a rare shining light in the hugely challenging environment of onboarding financial institutions to assist with blockchain payment rails. It's genuinely a really challenging job.
Okay, I can only imagine.
Yeah. I mean, there was the previous administration had a whole thing. It was Operation Choke Point. It was an actual thing, like where they're going to choke banks' relationships with crypto companies and protocols. So clearly that's shifted. And another factor is the SAB 121 accounting rule. I don't know if you guys are familiar with that, but that was removed as far as regulatory wise, which it basically, I don't know if this applies to you guys at Coast or Old Glory Bank, but it used to be, prior to this change, was if you had like $1 billion in Bitcoin at the bank, you needed $1 billion of collateral to back it up to count it as a legit asset. But removing of that 121 SAB accounting rule removed that requirement. So now banks are more freely able to hold crypto assets, custody them, build products. So that was actually a major catalyst that happened fairly recently that a lot of people aren't aware of. That's extremely bullish for crypto, just becoming more of a legitimate asset, something that's respected now and treated as like a legit thing versus what it was just only a few years ago. So yeah, there's a lot of positive momentum there, and hopefully it works out with your guys' banking partner, because on we were hoping Richard was going to do his own stablecoin that was on his roadmap. Someone has it. I know some people have it somewhere, but that was on his roadmap. I don't know if that's something that he's gonna look into in the future, but it's nice that we have an option now that people can use, and hopefully there's a lot of good liquidity in order to keep that dollar stable. and ways to do that. I don't know all the functionality that's going on with you, how you got your stablecoin works, but if that's the case, then that's a great step in the right direction. And hopefully,
Yeah. So
yeah.
yes, I mean, it's probably a useful time to say that our simple goal is to bring more money onto PulseChain, and if someone else wants to make a stable coin or an on ramp, or if we're going to be listed on multiple large exchanges, we're really happy for that. Our interests really are in the valuation of the chain in total. If in 5 years' time our product's not required, we're not going to be upset about that. We just want to see this chain thrive. It's really interesting, your comments around, the asset backing and the changes in some of the, the regulations in that respect. I think I sort of view all these things probabilistically and think, in 50 years' time, it's almost 100% probability we're going to be using blockchain or an evolution of that. In the next week, how likely is it going to be changed? Well, maybe not very high, but I think if you take a long-term view, we're clearly going to move to a borderless system with instant finality and transparent ledgering. But realistically, that future is going to be it's much closer than the example I gave of 50 years. I say that to help myself get conviction that this tech change will happen, and all the FUD or the manipulation that happens as part of the transition is just something to hold the volatility through, because it's probably the last sort of frustrating kick lashing out of a system that needs updating. So I think it's really interesting to see these changes week by week, month by month. And I think if we elongate our view out to a longer time horizon, we're on the right track with, where we're looking towards our financial future. And I think that's really exciting. And these things get accelerated by what seems to be a pro individual administration, a pro tech administration. And I think that we view things as, where are someone's incentives? And it seems like this administration's incentives is to make America the forefront of everything, and including digital assets. And that's a great bit of momentum to try and tap into and go along with. So I think, it's really exciting.
Yeah. Yep. I mean,
you asked a question about. Yeah, sorry, can go on. I've got a little lag here. I'm sorry.
I was just going to say, they have a financial interest now. They have big bags, the people that are making the regulatory changes, and Congress and et cetera. They all have big bags of crypto now. So it's now in their incentive to create rules that are pro innovation, not, having a stranglehold on things. And, people were just going up to the SEC and saying, hey, are we compliant? And then that would just be, open them up to a lawsuit, basically. That's how the previous administration would do it. It just didn't make any sense. So I'm glad that that's passed us. Yeah, we'll see as far as, how it plays out, as far as what it's going to look like for a lot of the protocols, or it's going to open up more stuff. But there was a couple stats maybe a few years ago that there was roughly 50% of all crypto trading happens in the US, like actual real volume. So why would you want all that volume to go somewhere else, to other exchanges? We just saw Bybit, one of the largest international exchanges, get hacked. It's clearly there's a lot of incentive to have it be in the US, people using it, and then revenue for the US as well. The fact that all these companies and businesses are going to be here, hopefully. So.
Yeah, I completely agree that it's just a great time to be involved. For all the alignment of all of our interests and incentives, which is starting to happen more so than I guess any time in the last probably 7 or 8 years, that's for sure. But yeah, so look, we've been pretty busy. We've got a few things that are happening at the moment. At all times, our core business is really the Coast on ramp, which we're supporting people all over the US, but also in 50 countries. And we try very hard to provide, excellent customer service if anyone needs help with that, because we understand that DeFi is hard. Don't worry, we never ask for anyone's seed phrase. And no matter how bad the FUD, we'll never rotate to that as a strategy. I'm just joking. But yeah, But yeah, so we have a few things that we're working on. We're actually, as you guys may or may not know, we've got a project that we've just launched called Glory, and it's an interesting thing for a few reasons. And again, its goal really is again to bring more economic energy into PulseChain. We've just been meeting, having some discourse over the last week about exactly the way we should discuss this project. But essentially, if we look at the functionality of it, users are able to take stable coins on 6 EVM networks, and they're able to, for $7, mint themselves a Glory token. And it's the design intention of the Glory project is to, I guess, allow people to have exposure to the price performance of the Reg A Plus offering of Old Glory Bank. We need to be a little bit careful as to how specific a language we use in that regards, and it's important that if people want to invest primarily in the Reg A Plus themselves, they're very welcome to do so, and we encourage people to do so, and that we have a URL that is publicly available that we can share in the notes later. But we've just designed this as, I guess, a proof of concept that these TradFi fundraising operations could quite feasibly be partially offered on the blockchain. And so we're in a process of trying to, not trying, but we're in a process of proving that these kind of opportunities, which, Reg A Plus is something that within the TradFi world is trying to be more inclusive of both non-accredited and accredited investors. So it is an opportunity for, quote, the little guy to get involvement early in something as opposed to sort of VC funding rounds. But we just think that it would be really cool if there was a future in which all of these traditional finance capital raises occurred trustlessly on a DeFi network with all the values of crypto that we all enjoy. And so Glory's I guess a proof of concept that that could potentially be rolled out to future projects. And there's some compliance and regulatory stuff we're working through, and there's some limitations as to what we can discuss around what occurs in the background currently. But it's very interesting, I think, that the Glory token continues to stay, almost, pegged to the value of these Reg A Plus offerings. So, the other things that come off the back of that is we've essentially created a free instant bridge to PulseChain. So if users are minting Glory that's pegged at $7 a token, it's actually completely fine if they choose to mint Glory and swap it for whatever they sort of like most on PulseChain. And we've seen users bridging from Arbitrum, Base, Polygon, as well as the more common EVMs, Ethereum, Binance, and coming onto PulseChain and doing what they want with their Glory tokens. But given there's no bridge fee and the processing time is less than 2 minutes, it's been an interesting observation that it's essentially created a new wider EVM bridge that people are now starting to use. So there's a few things to Glory that we think are interesting. We're hoping that, from what I've said, there's a few avenues in which we can bring sentiment and exposure and ultimately capital to PulseChain. People can participate if they want to. It's certainly not compulsory. And if you want to participate, you can go to 0xglory.com. And again, I guess it's important to say that we are crypto guys. We're not bank guys. And whilst we've started to talk a lot about a particular bank, it's largely because they've been so supportive of what we're trying to do and what all of you are trying to do and all the people that listen to this stream and listen to other streams. We've just found them to be a very rare sort of unicorn institution. But hopefully, as the sentiment shifts, we're going to see more and more support more generally. So Glory is something people can participate in if they'd like to. We think it's really interesting, and yeah, I guess we think it's really cool. It would be really great if these kind of things happened on PulseChain in the future, because that would bring a whole new market, a whole new lot of capital, and a whole new lot of attention. So that's probably all I can really say about that. We're happy to chat about it a little bit more if you like, but Glory's just been an interesting project for us that keeps us along the main goal of trying to raise the valuation of the chain.
Questions from the crew?
Well, you said, obviously I won't grill you too hard on what's going on in the background. You said you can't talk too much about that because I was like, how's this peg going to work? But I'm sure that you guys have a plan for that. And I wonder, like, is the Old Glory itself, are they going to benefit, like the bank going to benefit from people that are purchasing Glory? Like, are they actually going to get some of that funds and that fund from those funds? That's kind of a question I have.
Let me answer that just slightly tangentially, and I would love to answer it more directly. But let's just say that the ultimate design of a system like this would be that everyone who mints a token in a Reg A Plus would be purchasing a share in a Reg A Plus. That would be the way we would love to see all of these projects launched in a future that combines TradFi and DeFi. We're just working through our language at the moment, with the other stakeholders, but we think that would be a fantastic design and a way to innovate, blockchain in general and PulseChain as our, favorite EVM. With respect to how the peg would work, I guess if it's overpriced, or overvalued. So if Glory can be minted for $7 at any point and it's worth $7.50 on chain, just given its price is going to move here, just simply due to buying and selling. So and it has previously traded above $7. Well, then the arbitrage can purely happen on chain where someone can take a Glory token, sell it for more than $7, and then mint another Glory token and keep the profit. So the arbitraging of the overvalued assets very straightforward. When it comes to the pegging of the undervalued price, so sort of when I went to bed last night, and my time zone's different to yours, it was trading at about $6.80, and so that in that instance, it just appears that there's users who think the value of a Glory token is $7 who are buying the Glory token back to $7. So the peg's been very interesting. But again, even like a stable coin, there isn't a automated pegging mechanism that occurs on any of these PRC20s. So even a CST stable coin or a USDC coin, a USDL, or even Glory, its minute to minute or hour to hour price is purely dictated by buying versus selling, and the impact of the buying versus selling is purely impacted by the thickness of the liquidity. So you're going to see some price volatility, but it does seem to trade very much at the $7 value raise amount.
Now, is the raise have a time component? Like, is this going to be like through the next 3 months or until they hit, or is there like a max cap once they hit 30 million or something like that? They're going to be done with their raise. So
if we look at old Glory Bank's Reg A Plus, and I need to emphasize that it is a separate fundraise to the Glory project. Strictly speaking. Their goal for the Reg A Plus is to raise 35 million, and they've given themselves a year to do that. And as I said, anyone who wants to go through the process of registering with their broker-dealer is very welcome to, and you can go to, they have a banner on their oldglorybank.com page. The goal over the next 12 months for them, we don't have insight into their plans depending on the speed at which they raise capital. So if you look at other companies, and I don't actually profess to be an expert in Reg A Plus offerings, but it's become something more relevant to us of late. But these companies are able to go public at a time of their choosing, even if their planned Reg A Plus fundraising period hasn't been completed. And they've sort of indicated that they've be open to that process lasting for 12 months. We don't have advanced knowledge of any of those plans. We don't have inside information. But one of the behaviours you do see from companies is to go public if they're having a successful fundraising campaign. And so that would also be really interesting. The stock went public, and underwent price discovery. It would be really interesting to see what happened to the value of a Glory token.
That would be. So then I imagine
but
though
yeah,
that at that point in time, whatever point in time they become public, you guys would be like, well, I guess we don't need, like, we wouldn't be minting any more glory at that point, I imagine, or
yeah,
is
that's right. So only at the point in time at which, glory minting will only be available for the period of time that that will mirror the Reg A Plus offering from Old Glory Bank. It's a separate process and it's a separate project. But the moment the Reg A Plus offering is finished, glory minting will be ceased.
Okay, cool. Sounds neat. I mean, like, I appreciate you guys in general. Y'all have brought $8+ million or more to Pulse, you know, through y'all's stable alone, you know, so that are, you know, so you guys are trying new cool things with banks that are, and this with the similar mindset we all have. I mean, it's all seems pretty kick ass for an exchange on Pulse, you know.
I think the important thing to remember is not everyone's going to like Glory, and not everyone's going to like the Coast platform, but everyone comes at this from a slightly different angle. And I guess, like, just like different community members have different preferred streams, I think everyone's just trying to, I guess, bring to life their version of PulseChain's success. And the more we can all be pulling in the overall same direction and not infighting about the minutiae about the way in which we're trying to achieve the common goal, I think we move everything really forward. We've found the people who do use our platform that, they're really excited about Glory. We don't need everyone to really like it. Again, as I said, we just want to, whenever we have an opportunity to do something that we think is both interesting and potentially beneficial to the train, then we'll allocate time and resources to that. And I think that, the work you guys do here by, doing the outbound messaging and having sensible, rational conversations that, myself, like, I learned from listening to your stream and many people, it's all positive things for, this EVM and this chain. And I think, what people are doing through their vision of what they think is helpful is just great. So yeah, appreciate what you guys do. And yeah, we understand that some people are going to say, why would we do this when we could buy an undervalued layer 1 coin or a DEX coin? And that's completely fine. It's, we don't have the expectations that people just do what we think is cool.
That's awesome. It's nice to be in that position to be able to do that kind of stuff.
Yeah, well said. I mean, anything that can add inflows to Pulse is good, because if you look at the bridge data, there isn't a lot, bridging over into PulseChain. You'd be surprised. So anything we can do to do that or accelerate that and bring users, new wallets, activity on the chain, anything to do that at a large enough scale or enough projects that are successful, hopefully. Unfortunately, though, it seems like a lot of projects have actually turned out poorly for a lot of investors on PulseChain, minus a handful. But anything like the stablecoin thing is definitely needed for sure. And I'm glad that at least someone is trying it and doing it. And I've never used it personally. I'm curious what the fees are to onboard someone from, like, a US user, let's say like $100,000 US user directly to PulseChain. I wonder what the fee would be like that compared to just doing a wire from Coinbase and bridging it over. But anything on chain, decentralized version of that is cool. The only thing I'll say about the Reg A Plus is, I'm curious how much they've already raised on the Reg A Plus, and I'm still confused on how the Reg A Plus for the bank relates to the Glory token. Or you were saying that they're two separate things.
So we need to be
do?
clear that there's not a direct relationship between the two.
It's more of like a derivative play, basically, right? Like it's tracking the price, but not actually like it's not, you're not actually getting shares of the company. You're getting something that should be loosely.
I think the tech speaks for itself, but people aren't actually participating directly in the Reg A Plus through the broker dealer individually. But clearly that's not happening. If you go to a website and mint a token in 2 minutes, you haven't gone through the same process of the KYC and the dealing with the broker dealer. So they are two separate processes. And I think suggesting that it's somewhat of a derivative is a sensible framework. But as I said, we are just, I guess, in an ongoing conversation about, how we use our language correctly. But, the institution we're talking about are supportive of what we're doing. They think it's cool. But, in this time of evolution where, you wouldn't, this project would never have been done 2 years ago. So we're very much at the forefront of that. We think it's really cool that, we're doing things at the forefront in PulseChain, which have been largely talked about, but never really launched in terms of real world tokenized assets on chains like, other chains talk about the fact that they want to launch these things and there's not a lot going on. So we think it's really cool, but we just need to, we want to maintain a positive relationship. And so given, the regulatory compliance, we just need to be a bit careful, and we're just in a slower process of making sure our language is exactly where it needs to be. So it's not to avoid questions or be deliberately tangential. We just want to foster a good relationship and work together towards that, because we think it's overall potentially very beneficial to all of us. So that sort of explains some of the answers I've given, hopefully.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I was just curious because, like, once you mint Glory on PulseChain, then what is the purpose of it? What is the use of it after it's minted? Because I get the Reg A Plus is like a traditional, crowdfunding with retail and accredited investors. And you have a transfer agent, you're issuing shares. That's totally different. I get that. But the Glory token, after it's minted on PulseChain, what is the purpose of it? Or what is the goal for it?
So if we were to compare the two different processes, with a Reg A Plus offering, you are getting the security offering per dollars. They've got a minimum of 9 lots of $7 shares or $63, and that goes through a broker dealer where you register. If you no longer want to be part of the Reg A Plus funding round, let's say in 6 months' time you have need for liquidity, the process in that regards is that you need to find a private buyer so that the balance and the shares can be assigned to that person through the broker dealer. So it's very difficult for any kind of, there's no secondary market for Reg A Plus offerings.
Yeah,
if you look at Glory as a distinct project, can you say that again? I'm sorry.
I was just saying, if in order to get liquidity, you would need the bank to go public and then transfer shares over to your brokerage account or whatever, right? Right.
That's right. That's right.
That's the Reg A. Of course, there's no liquidity because it's not public; it's privately traded. Yeah, I get that.
That's right. Whereas the Glory token is tradable 24/7 on a decentralized exchange. People can buy it, sell it, LP it to earn yield. They can do whatever they like. They can participate or not participate. Sorry. And so I think it's just really interesting that there's maybe a future in which these offerings are then able to be traded on a secondary market, because the logistics involved in trying to access liquidity are very challenging. So that's the avenue of innovation we're pursuing with Glory.
But I still don't see why you would trade one for the other. You know what I mean? Like how? So you're saying that someone would trade the actual shares, like the certificate of shares, for a token in exchange for liquidity, and then they would be a transfer of ownership.
No, I think he's saying that the choice of, like, you make the choice of, like, you could go through the KYC process and then after
getting the shares,
after being KYC'd, then you have illiquid shares. Whereas in this process, you don't have to be KYC'd and you have liquidity. For the
until you have liquidity, but it's not backed by actual shares in the company. It's just
there's something going on behind the scenes. They're like that's kind of like the black box stuff. So I like, if I was doing it and like, this is all pure speculation and you don't have to say I'm right or not Resolute whatsoever, but I would imagine that you'd buy, like, when somebody's making these purchases on your thing, you're buying a 1-to-1, with these tokens, so that there is some derivative, the value is there, locked up in some form, but I'm just, like I said, I don't know. So that's, but they're supposed to track it, is the idea. So
that'd certainly be an honest way to conduct business. I would understand that.
It would be, yeah. But like I said, I understand that I'm sure that there's some legal, some things you're not supposed to say. So I understand. I appreciate your, respect
And
your.
we also understand that this kind of language is frustrating. Probably this community more than anyone understands that. But we also understand that people are a little bit fatigued by it. It's frustrating for us at times to not just say exactly what we think. But I guess with our goal being to be something that brings capital to PulseChain, we think it's better to play along with the requirements so that we don't burst up in a ball of flames early.
Yeah, I agree with that entirely, because like what you're really trying to do with this token in general is, like you said, it's really mostly proof of concept and this fun extra bridge for other liquidity to come over that's interested in this project, which is, both of those things are totally, like, in my mind, awesome value adds, and if they become if it becomes a some sort of regular thing that people are launching Reg A's and having tokens derivative tokens that track it or something, that's neat. That's all super neat and better for finance in general. So cool.
Yeah, and we just think that we've got to remember that part of what we want to do is bring attention and capital from people who aren't us. And so we need to be open to advertising or providing products that might be attractive to other people. We're all really sold on the values of HEX, Pulse, and PulseX. I'm sure that we're all, significant bag holders. But there's going to be some people who come to PulseChain for things that aren't those three things, and that's okay. We just want to encourage people to come for whatever they think is the most valuable project on the chain. And, it could be an NFT platform. It could be meme coins. And personally, like our position at Coast, we've tried to be coin agnostic. We just want to bring people onto the chain. And yes, we have holdings and we have preferred avenues for which that capital might get funneled. But largely, this is a free EVM chain where people can come and do what they please. So we've just tried to have the approach of let's give people the opportunity to come here and invest here through whatever their investment thesis is. And, and that no matter what people's preferences are, that should be bullish for the core assets. Trading happening on chain with a token like Glory is burning PulseX, and transactions are, require Pulse. So even at a small scale, the more things that happen on this chain and the more people with a different background and a different investing, ideology or thesis is just better for us in general. And if they don't all come to the chain and stake HEX for 5555, we probably shouldn't scream at them. We should probably just say, hey, like, it's nice to meet you, dude.
Yeah. Feel that.
Well, yes, and also the yield got slashed significantly too.
Yes.
Welcome to PulseChain. We love you.
Yeah, there's this.
Yeah, those 5555s aren't paying out as much as they were, are they? but look, we've all done well to be in those early. But I think sometimes, and I think it's a function of a bear market and all the external factors that we've had in this community. But I think sometimes we could, and this isn't aimed at your show at all. I think you guys speak very sensibly and openly, but I think sometimes social media is a bit of a quagmire where people come in, they show some interest, and if they don't show the exact type of interest, we smash them. It's like, mate, like they're here. Let's just treat them well, and if they leave, that's okay. Like if we give them a good experience, they'll speak positively about the chain, and whether they move all of their net worth here or whether they live here forever, I think that's separate. We just want a place where people can come and have their crypto and manage it securely and have projects that are in line with the core values of crypto, and then it's a free market. People will come and go. We don't have to. I think sometimes we can be almost a little desperate for people to stay and commit forever, and it's almost like telling a girl you love them on the first date. It doesn't usually work out that well.
Yeah, I mean, there's just so much noise going on social media, and without Richard at the helm, the inmates are running the asylum. So there's no direction, there's no leadership, there's no, like core. We have this, this same goal that we're all trying to achieve. It's like now it's like, how do I scam people? How do I rug pull people? How do I launch a pump tires coin? And maximize, how much money I can make out of it, or doing a sacrifice and barely launching any product or any liquidity. So it's like in this environment, it's kind of just like everyone's just trying stuff, flinging things on the wall and trying to see if it sticks and if it works. Whereas, a couple years prior, Richard was streaming. There was people talking about it, the fundamentals and the yield and all the cool game theory and stuff like that. Whereas, and that was naturally going to be a progression once PulseChain launched, you would think. That's kind of like what's to be expected. But without that helm, it's a little bit difficult, right? And it is encouraging though, seeing that Richard's trying different avenues to attract people with meme coins, the pump tires. He's like, basically, everyone wants this on their chain. Here you go, and this is like already a streamlined way to do it with the least possible scamming going on, I guess, is a nice way of putting it. And he's made huge inflation cuts to the systems. So things are happening, at least behind the scenes, which signal that hopefully there's some resolution in the legal case too, going back to that. But yeah, right now, PulseChain is just kind of all over the place, and it would be nice to have that more unified goals, where it seems like everyone's just kind of in it for themselves, and hopefully getting people over is obviously a key thing for adoption and growth of the chain. And I don't see a whole lot of that happening. So hopefully things like Coast, Glory, some of these other projects that are launching. I know a few projects that are launching in the next year or so. Hopefully that'll bring some people over. But at the same time, the best thing to bring people over is green candle technology. Is green candles, is price up. That is the best marketing. That's always been the best marketing. So that is going to lead kind of everything else, I think. So, we'll see if there's some mysterious bridges over to PulseChain eventually. This full cycle, you would imagine that was eventually going to happen. But when, no one knows, right? And it's all just a speculation. And I think a lot of people are trying to front run that, or whatever, plan accordingly. But it's caused kind of where we're at in PulseChain, and I'm hoping it'll get better as this year progresses, and as ETH goes up too. That'll help a lot, I think.
One of the things that we often say, when we're talking, Stoic and I, is that we've dead set locked in a fantastic story that we didn't know we'd be telling our grandkids in 30 years' time. We had no idea that the last 5 years was going to play out the way it has. I've no idea how the next 5 years is going to play out, but geez, it's a story. It's a cracker of a story.
Yeah, the community is super entertaining. Like the stories, the characters, the things that happen. There's always hilarious stuff going on. So I love that about PulseChain and the HEX ecosystem. But there's also stuff that's wrong with it and are not productive, and things are always changing too. So it's like you have to react, and people get stuck in thinking about things the way things were 3 years ago, whereas like now things have changed, right? Like Ethereum, going all in on Ethereum HEX probably isn't the best idea at this point, even though some people are still saying that's the thing to do, right? So there's all types of ways to do things, but hopefully we can all win together eventually as things progress, and as the wider crypto market, all ships rise with the rising tide. So that'll help a lot, I think.
Yeah, I hope this is a really good time. I probably only have a couple of minutes, so if it's okay, I might just tell you guys briefly about something that's coming, probably in Q2, and then I might just jump off if that's okay. So we're also bringing a new DEX to PulseChain. It's the URL will be 0xtide.com, but I just wanted to clarify the rationale for that a little bit. As you guys know, when people bring dollars onto PulseChain, they mint a stablecoin, CST. But the challenge with PulseChain, we feel, is that most of the stablecoin liquidity is in the bridge stables. And externally, we think that the PulseChain bridge is excellent. The code base that's being forked and worked upon is probably the most secure in the DeFi industry, and bridges have been a challenge over the years. but the optics for bridges, having a single bridge to PulseChain for a lot of people is that that's a single point of failure. And so that's where we've found, we felt it important to provide a different set of rails to the chain. One of the challenges then with regards to native stablecoin liquidity, and we mean both our own stablecoin CST, but even HEXDC, PXDC, and USDL, is that a lot of the liquidity isn't necessarily well incentivized on PulseX. So we've forked and are in the final stages of testing a Balancer V3 fork, which is a upgraded software that launched in January on Ethereum. The goal of that is simply to improve the order execution for those coming on and off chain via the native stablecoins. So whether that's someone locking up Pulse so that they can use USDL to buy real estate or stocks or just pay for the goods and services of their life, or if it's people bringing fiat in or off PulseChain via our fiat on-ramp and want to maximize the order execution that they get for larger buys, sort of, north of $50,000 to $100,000. We will be able to bring that software live, as I said, probably in Q2. The focus will just be moving in and out of core assets and the native stable coins. And again, we just want to bring as much utility as we can to things like liquid loans and the Earn protocol, because we feel at the moment with the amount of liquidity, it's not very feasible for someone to take their large bag of PulseX and to mint themselves PXDC. Like, there's a lot of slippage on big orders, and that sort of is going to make people sell rather than borrow. And by the same token, if you're trying to on-ramp more than $100,000 via CST, you're going to get a message from us in your chat box saying, hey, we might try to help on-ramp this money, in smaller stages, because you'll get a bit of slippage with a six-figure order. So I guess as we try to bring more money in, we just want to make sure these native stablecoin-driven protocols have more liquidity, and therefore we can use them more optimally and people can have better order execution. It's not, we're not launching this to compete with PulseX. We're not looking to take the market share of PHUX. We use both of these protocols every day. We like both of them, but we just think there's a real need to incentivize increasing on-chain liquidity of the native stables in particular, and to give cheap, capitally efficient ways to get into all of the core assets from fiat. So, that's something that you'll see from us coming up in the next quarter, and we're really excited about it. It's working well. There's no sacrifice for it or anything like that. It's just something we've already worked on and essentially is finished. And we're just going to keep working and doing our thing to try and, bring our vision of PulseChain's benefit to life. We appreciate everyone else's, and I really appreciate you having me on.
Yeah, man, our pleasure. Glad to finally, meet the voice, behind the entity of Coast. I know I was talking to Stoic as well, but at least it was good of you to come on. Maybe one day, Stoic, maybe one day. But I'm sure you'll get busted for that by Resolute. I did have one question for you that was in the chat that I saved. It was from Paul Sachs. Have you noticed an increase in new customers since the congressional hearing with OGB CEO a couple of weeks ago, Old Glory Bank?
We've seen a mixture of things. We are seeing a constant increase in our general amount of users, but we are also seeing an increasing amount of people funding their accounts through Old Glory Pay, which requires an Old Glory Bank account. So it's probably both things. Now we have more than 1,500 PulseChain users that use Old Glory Pay to on-ramp, and those people are getting on-chain, onto actual self-custody crypto within 90 seconds of initiating a bank transfer. So that we think that's pretty cool. There's a lot of people who, want instant sort of purchasing ability, and our platform, as I said, is more being optimized for low fees and self-custody, which means it operates a little bit slower, and we've been comfortable with, planning our capital allocation and not trading on FOMO. But look, the addition of Old Glory Pay, I think, has been fantastic, and we've definitely noticed that that's brought new customers in both directions.
Cool. Well, there you have it, Paul. There is your answer. And thank you for knocking that one out, sir. Happy Cabana Friday. Scotty, Utah, the Ute. Happy Friday to you, TGIF. And yeah, good to have you, man. Thank you for coming by and telling us, giving us the lowdown, because I've seen the tweets and whatnot, but it's always better to explain in person, hear it in person, and bounce some questions off of you. And I'm glad we were all able to do that.
I really appreciate the chance to come on. It's just a little icing on top to be able to, I guess, just jump in and save Stoic when his little calendar fell apart. So that's just a gift. That's a gift for me that we'll keep giving. But we appreciate what you guys do. We like the way you guys talk about crypto in general and macro and geopolitics, as well as PulseChain. So I think
we've done all that so far today.
Yeah, no, I think it's great, and thanks for having us, and yeah, wish you guys well.
All right, sound good.
You too, man.
All right, we'll talk to you soon.
Good talking, man.
Bye bye.
Take care.
Thanks, man. Speaking of talking about everything, there's this guy in the chat. You may recognize him. He's a hexologist. Richard Hart is Lazarus Group. Is that what we were talking about? I mean, we talked about it earlier in the show, but perhaps you're just catching up, Hexo. Good to see you, my friend. Good to see you. We did have a couple more items on the list. I don't know if Big K is in listening distance, but what are your thoughts on this? I guess the overall, how should I ask this? The overall concept of meme coins. What are your thoughts on them, John? Because we've had Dave Portnoy. I mean, memes have been going on forever, but most recently, and perhaps not so coincidentally, after Richard Hart launched Pump.Tires, and then, of course, the most wanted meme coin out there, which is my favorite, by the way, because it's from the founder and the original. That's why. But anyway, not financial advice. Lots of fun stuff on
chart looks pretty good.
Pump.Tires. Yeah. Chart looks really good. Rings, another one that's good. I think what's another one? Best. Fun stuff on there. But what are your thoughts on this? Because Portnoy, I guess, launched his stuff on Solana. One of them was similar to Most Wanted on PulseChain. And then, of course, Kraken lists this stuff that essentially rugs. And we can't get, an actual meme coin from a founder that's not going to rug on there. But what's your thoughts on the meme space? Is this kind of where crypto money is just going to I don't want to say die right now, but like it's getting sloshed around here when it could be going into something that could have possible more value and utility in the future, like an ETH. What are your thoughts on memes?
Well, meme, like you said, memes have been around forever. Like Dogecoin, obviously one of the big ones early on that a lot of people got really rich on. So people have been making. I mean, you could argue that certain protocols are meme coins because they don't really do much, but other than a story, right? And meme just basically means it's like has its own little narrative story. But in general, like this cycle, they pumped the hardest to start. Like some of the memes on Solana and Ethereum, like they did some insane X's already. Like 100, 200, 300, 500. So you've seen clearly a lot of demand and a lot of people getting rich on it. So therefore, people are going to speculate on it. And it's just kind of like it seems like it's a word of mouth thing where it spreads like wildfire. And then once like the kind of the peak of how many people would hear about it or could hear about it, have heard about it, and potentially bought, then it tanks down 80-90%. So they've all a lot of the memes have already come back and down a lot. This is not PulseChain specific, but like a lot of the meme coins have come back a lot on Solana and ETH too. And the question is there going to be another meme cycle where Murad, Must Stop Murad. I don't know if you know him.
Yep.
He's been talking about the meme coin super cycle. He even posts his portfolio, showing everyone like basically how much he owns, which is a significant amount of money. So if he ever does sell, it's going to be totally visible and on chain,
Yeah.
and it's going to just cause a cascading of selling. But anyways, is that going to happen? I don't know, but like there's some very smart people that I know that have made a lot of money on meme coins and that think that it's also going to continue as a narrative for this cycle, just like NFTs were last cycle. You don't hear much about NFTs this cycle, right? So is it a one-time flash in the pan thing, or is it a does it have pumps in them? I don't know. I'm not sure. I'm not overly indexed to meme coins personally. I think certain ones have good, have good market fit, have actually a good product, can do certain things, or have something that sticks and that could kind of get stuck in your mind.
They could
Can
do
do
the
well,
most
but
for your
it's
portfolio. Yeah.
but it's also highly speculative, and if you don't already have like 4 crypto holdings, then it wouldn't be something I would just ape into personally. I would rather get my core holdings first, then speculate on some of the higher risk, higher out there, smaller cap coins. But at the same time, then if you're like a young single guy or young single gal, and you don't have much to lose, why not sprinkle them everywhere? So it's work. There's a million ways to think about it. It's just basically a ticker. As they go up, more people ape in. As they go down, everyone sells. So it's just like highly reflexive, and the cycles seem to be much faster than a regular crypto. Like it just booms and busts faster, it seems. So yeah, I don't know. It's not really answering your question that well, but it's just, I guess that's kind of my thoughts on meme coins. I'm glad that Richard did it, the pump tires on PulseChain, because clearly it was having a lot of success on Solana, and if like why not? And if it's going to burn Pulse, even better. Like I think he saw that it's going to happen anyway. Why not have some adoption on PulseChain too? And then it's going to burn a lot of Pulse. You have to. I think it takes like a 1% on both like not a tax, but it's like a 1% fee or whatever to trade it anyway. So it's like higher fee if you want to get in, but if you so you have to know that you're getting into that when you do. But if you got the right coin at the right time, meme coin on PulseChain, you could have made 100x like actually on your money buying the right coin.
And that's like the gambling aspect of it, though, because a lot of it is about timing, and of course there are like sniper bots out there to like alert people. Oh, well, this thing just launched, and then it's like, well, who launched it, and how many, where were the coins sent, and all that stuff, and then it's like, it's not my cup of tea, but I will mess with something that like a founder that I personally trust perhaps was put out there. I'm not gonna make it a giant position in my portfolio, but I'll own it because I deem that as like kind of a core coin in quotes, along with PulseChain, PulseX, and whether you're a fan of it anymore, Inc. Haha, but that's another subject maybe we can get into next. So and of course the hexes. So
I mean, it also comes down to like who founded it, who created it, who's managing it, if anyone, or is it just something meme that's supposed to carry the whole project on its back? Is just the story of it, right? So like, is there actually fundamentals, or is it just strictly just a coin with a billion supply, and then just it's a free for all, basically? It's kind of like Lord of the Flies. So that's what it kind of seems like, pump tires. But it's blurring Pulse, bringing activity to the chain. It's very helpful for validators because it seems like when these do pump, the gas fees spike drastically on PulseChain because people are trying to front run each other, get transactions in. So it's very good for the validators, very good for burning Pulse, well, good for PulseX. But obviously these things take time, right? The buy and burn for PulseX, like that's a long-term benefit. It's not like a 1 year and like, oh, it's gonna do all these things for the price, right? As we've seen, PulseX is still 70% below SAC price, right? Which is crazy because it's been gaining against Pulse pretty drastically. So a lot of people have been doing that trade, right? PulseX to get more Pulse or to get Anyways, so it's It's an interesting time, but we can I guess move on to ink if you want.
Yeah, I mean, I was just gonna talk about the cores as like the last thing on the list, and I just wanted to
Mhm.
put this out there. Little breaking news: SEC has ended its investigation into NFT marketplace OpenSea. So yet another victory for crypto, and hey, we'll take it in the Pulse Chain community, and perhaps a harbinger of things to come for us. So
Very
we
good. That's very good because that's
we will
NFTs
see.
as collectibles versus securities is a big deal.
Yep.
That it's collectible, and I think there's a I don't know if it's actually true or not, but people have been saying that they've basically ruled meme coins as collectibles too. So if that's the case, that's extremely bullish for crypto.
Yeah, and it kind of echoes what David Sachs said, that NFTs are like, he sees them as collectibles, and of course, he's a very pro crypto bro, and I'm happy that he has a voice in this current administration,
Yeah.
and
I mean,
we'll see.
if you know what securities are, if you actually sell securities or
Right.
deal with securities, buy and selling them, it's
Right.
like you know what a security is. It's like very clear that what is a security, and meme coins are clearly not securities. Like to me, it's very cut and dry. But clearly, these Congress people are super old, behind on the times, behind on the technology, So, but he's putting people in that have an actual understanding, which is nice. So.
Yeah. Lunacy Point, Trump made collectibles legal. LOL. I mean, yeah, I can't really dispute it, because he did the whole NFT thing last year. I got in on some of them, and the having a physical collectible is pretty cool. Sai
Yeah.
from Pulse Chain Community has, I guess, gone with the same idea. I don't know if the physical stuff is out there, but the concept's pretty cool to actually have something physical matched up with the NFT. So that's cool.
Mhm.
Yes, and speaking of memes and memes with utility, Helgo, and then what else do we have? PT, GC, UFO. I mean, we do have some really cool stuff with utility. It's not just a dog or a frog on a
You could
coin.
say PDI is a meme.
True, fair.
Say all the PRC20s are memes. You could,
Yeah.
and there are some meme coins that are launching. I know this year that could do very well, right? But all these things, like again, green candles is what's going to bring people over. But you got to have those tokens. You got to have the momentum and that activity and that excitement again. Like I feel like Pulse Chain will have that, but then it's like very short lived. It's like a month or less than that, and there's boom, and then it's like bust, right? Sell off, a lot of resistance, a lot of sell pressure. But that also at the same time, that's kind of how the sacrifice was designed. Like it was designed to get the most dollars possible. Therefore, it gave out a lot of supply. That's why the price charts look the way they do, right? It's kind of not too, surprising, but at the same time, it is kind of surprising that it hasn't broken the stack price to, anywhere close at this point. But it's still a brand new. It's still relatively brand new chain. The ink inflation was just changed, and I know you want to talk about that because that's one of an interesting thing that's happened recently.
Yeah, that's like our last discussion point. Before we get there, just Hodpril brought up an interesting point. We have important NFTs in this ecosystem, Pulse Chain. We got the Watsas, can't forget those. Pulse Kittens, HSIs, Watt, etc. So save our NFTs. Yeah, good news for the NFTs today with that OpenSea stuff. So yeah, let's talk a little, I guess, the death of inflation in the RH ecosystem. So what was first? Was it ink that was cut, and then the I mean, it all happened around the same time. Yeah, we had Pulse Chain pump dot tires, so that's helping out with Pulse Chain, Pulse X. We had the ink inflation just absolutely murdered by, what was it, like 90% or something, and it's come down in increments since then. And then we've also had, of course, the staking of a ton of the HEX supply, bringing that inflation down. So how what's your take on all this? Because there are a lot of theories going, out there, especially about the hex stuff. But I guess let's just start with like Ink, because that was one of the first ones that we talked about.
Yeah, I'll tell you a quick story. So I'm in a couple group chats with the founder of Icosa and Pedron, Alex, and he was telling me, this was about 6 months ago, maybe 9 months ago. He was saying like, what's the key driver for the PulseX is actually Ink. And I was like, whoa, why is that? He's like, it's actually because RH can pull the levers on the Ink emissions and which pools to emit them to at the rate where he can basically drive the LP where he wants the LP to go. And I thought that was very interesting insight, because it's what he did a few weeks ago, or whatever, last week, whenever that happened, is he basically cut the emission rate by 90% and even further now, like 95%, which is basically incentivizing people to do what? Pull their LP, which therefore causes a reduction in liquidity of the whole chain, less liquidity tied to stables, because a lot of people pull like PulseX, PulseX, all the other stables, Tether, what's other stable, USDC. So that was a way to say, hey, you guys need to pull some of this LP. You're not going to get paid as much anymore. You're also going to be dumping Ink less, right? Because you're not getting as much. The APY drastically went down. And I want you guys to pull some LP, because then it's going to be easier to pump in the future once we pull LP. So it's like an indirect way of controlling the ecosystem, controlling the farms on PulseX in an interesting way. And how
about controlling certain whales that might have a huge supply of said incentive token as well? What do you think?
Yes, because there are certain entities that may be selling a lot of their Ink inflation that they've rightfully earned, right? And the APYs were just so high on their pairs that they did, and they had bags so big from the sacrifice that it was like, they're just using gains on top of gains to farm, and then they're using those gains of the gains to farm free money at a 40% rate a year on millions of dollars. That's millions of dollars a year of doing nothing, absolutely nothing, right? So the era of free money and cheap Ink yield and hex yield has gone.
Cheap yield. Yep.
We basically had a much more drastic. We had like 4 or 5 halvings in one, basically, both Ink and hex, as far as new inflation goes. So hopefully you were staked this whole time, because then you were getting those 6, 7 hex per t-shirt payout for the last 2-3 years during the bear market. Your unit size for hex has probably gone up since the bear market. So if you were staked, you're good. But if you're, it really killed the short-term stakers, because a lot of people were also staking, going back to hex, we're staking, 100 million hex for 30 days and getting a very nice return for it, also doing nothing. So
and some of those guys have since sold out because they're not getting that yield.
Yeah, and it makes sense, because people are going to do what they're incentivized to do, what's in their best interest, and you can kind of tweak the parameters in a benevolent way, right? Like everything Richard's done so far has been in a benevolent dictator way, which is kind of how we've been accustomed to it, and how actually we like it for a good ecosystem to work. You kind of need that, and it's nice that the benevolent dictator also has a lot of money too. That's also nice. So those are the things going well for the PulseChain. Like PulseChain is set up very well relative to other L1s. Like set up, obviously the legal stuff, the most wanted stuff, the Interpol stuff is not good, and not good for appearances and anything. But from another perspective, it's also giving you time to accumulate at very cheap prices for a long time. But it's also shaking out a lot of people, and it caused a lot of anguish and pain too, just because that's what the bear market does too.
Yeah. And with all that going on, I mean, I'm just going to peek at the hex liquidity, which is non-existent. I mean, we're down to, I'm just going to refresh this to make sure I'm reading it right, 8.7 million in liquidity on PulseChain. I mean, that's crazy. And it keeps slowly dripping down. I think it was like 40 maybe like a week or two ago. And then it was less and less and less. And then now it's just a drip. I mean, a couple days ago it was like 11, then it was 10, and now it's under 9. So
and so now you're getting less yield and then when you do go to dump, you're getting less back.
Yep.
Because you're slipping it against yourself even more. So it's created an environment where it's like, I dare you to sell because you're going to get less. There's less liquidity. It's going to move the price more, but you're going to be shaken out much faster and easier than the slow big liquidity drainage that was going on with high yield. So I mean, I kind of approve of the changes. They were pretty drastic. I thought if you did do that, maybe you would do slowly. Like especially the staking on the HEX side. I didn't think it would go from like 10% to 95% that fast. But the benevolent dictator has decided what he thinks is best, and that's we just kind of have to fall in line and adapt to that, right? So it's if the short-term staking kind of is ruined now, okay, what are the alternatives? What are the alternatives to that?
I
Or people just
believe,
stake
and
less.
correct me if I'm wrong, I guess, let's just call it half of the coins were staked for 5555. And then is there not maybe around the other half that was like staked for 30 days? Is that where we're at right now?
I think it was like the SAC fund HEX was staked for 30 days, and then the other one, the OA daughter address is all staked 555.
Yeah. So that 30-day stake can still be tweaked. So the yield, can be upped, fairly dramatically. It's only going to be half of what it was, but if that entity decides, to not stake that at some point in the future, perhaps during a bear, then users could see their yield, re-up, if you will. So it's just something to think about. And there are still some levers that can be pulled. It's just, how people are going to play it and how successful or unsuccessful they will be at managing their bags.
Yeah. It was just basically the OA was the Fed in this case, and just set the monetary policy moving forward, and that's just how it's going to be. It's just like in the U.S., we don't have a say over what Jerome Powell's going to do. We really have no power over him. We're kind of just at the mercy of the powers that be that have to pull the strings as far as the policy. But it makes sense that the benevolent dictator is probably going to do what he thinks is best at the time, and then hopefully adapt as things change. And getting rid of the short-term staking, that means probably less people are going to stake, in general. So that means they're probably going to sell on the way up sooner than later as well, as a result, because the gravy train is kind of gone. Or they could send it out further, but then you're getting even less yield, locking your coins up longer, right? So it's kind of like it's like playing like chess almost, in that sense, where it's like, how can I tweak this, and then how are you going to adjust, and how he can readjust to the adjustment, right? It's kind of like a interesting game theory potential.
Yeah, the founder did once tweet, HEX is an IQ test, and we're seeing a lot of IQs, I think, that will be tested here, and they've already been tested maybe in the past week or so. We're going to see how that plays out in the coming weeks and or months.
Yep. So, and I think the ink emission was reduced a couple times again. So it's like coming even down even more. I'm curious to see what he does with the farms, if ever. Maybe he's just going to totally not do the PRC20 farms anymore, like you mentioned, leading up to the sacrifice phase. It was like, that was the big thing, right? It was like, we're going to pair the two, get ink, and we're going to have parity with some of the coins, and then it's going to bring everyone over. Well, that doesn't happen at all.
Yeah.
It was tried with like Pepe and a couple other alts. And it worked, I guess, in theory, but he just wasn't satisfied with I guess, the farm system. So, I'm curious what's going to happen at the farms. I thought that was going to be a major, bullish catalyst for PulseX and just for the activity of the chain. But it seems like he's going a different route, and he's pivoting, and we'll see what happens the rest of this year. It should be interesting. And with the lawsuit hopefully clearing up, you may see more moves than now too. So who knows?
What was that last part?
I'm just saying, with the case hopefully by this year resolving, you might even have more leeway and more latitude to do things monetary policy wise, bridging wise, streaming wise than previously with the last 2 years have allowed him to probably.
Yeah, I saw this in Rect Hex Plebs. I just wanted to bring it up because people will complain about anything. Where are we at? Let's do this one. Then we need to destroy staker rewards. Hex cannot succeed because the yield is too high. Whales keep dumping yield. Now we need to boost staker rewards. Hex cannot succeed because the yield is too low. Whales have no incentive to be here.
Yes, it's the the flip flopping back and forth.
Yeah. So
it's
I think we covered most things. I guess any other final thoughts on the cores now that we've covered the entire discussion list, but I know you mentioned, I guess, pretty much all of them: PulseX, PulseChain. I mean, those are benefiting from the pumped out tires. We discussed the memes. We discussed, I guess, theories on the staking, the ink. I mean, there's still a lot of ink in the hands of whales. Some friendly, perhaps some not. Any thoughts on whales holding outsized bags and maybe just being able to control certain parts of the ecosystem? I saw like Maddie, perhaps it was just an engagement post saying, should we fork certain people out of the community? I'm like, oh boy, that's a slippery slope if that were ever even given an ounce of consideration.
No, there's no way. I mean,
yeah.
It's just the ethos of chain. There's no way. But I mean, as far as ink goes and the people accumulating it, I think it was just when people saw the inflation rate was cut and they realized, okay, well, it's way more scarce than I thought, or that it appeared to be at the time. Previously, it was undervalued, and then it got bought up, right? And relative to Pulse and PulseX and Hex. So, and it's kind of come back a little bit. So it's interesting what they're going to do. Are they going to sell in the $2 range? I doubt it. So, and they were accumulating in this range roughly. So it's like you would think that they're going to hold for higher prices, and that since it's more rare than we thought, that more people are going to hold it. Or if there are farms, I'm hoping that there may be farms open in the future with ink as a primary pair, so that it's like, if you really need it, you need to buy it or have it already. So, maybe that would be nice. And then, it's another use case for it. But I mean, in theory, since the emission drops so much, like the price should go up pretty high relative to, the other core. So it's like, it should do well. I wouldn't say, I don't know if I'm the most bullish on it of all the coins on the chain, but it should do okay as long as everything else is succeeding.
I was more bullish
too. So
I was more bullish in the past on it than I am now. I guess less bullish over time just because the supply was like locked up by a few big entities, and that's just because of validating or excuse me, not validating, but LP. And if you control a lot of the LP in specific pairs, you're going to get some rewards, and good for those guys for doing it. But at the same time, it's like, okay, well, there's a lot that could be extracted from certain coins, and Hex looks like one of the safest ones now, whereas ink looks a little less safe on just that, in that regard. So it's just something to consider.
And I mean, and it always, and when I'm looking at the charts of all these coins too in relation to each other, like so much of it is like reflexive on top of it, because like it's all about like if people are cashing out into stables. If people are cashing out ink, PulseX, Pulse, Hex into stables, then it drags everything else down as you're selling, right? And then as more people said, then it keeps dragging down the USD price even faster than normal chains. So it's like Hart's law on steroids, kind of.
Right.
And then when people are putting, DAI and stables into the chain and buying these assets too, it pumps it much faster as well, because everything's just going up relative to each other and then relative to DAI. So it's like, I feel like it's increased the volatility even more, just the way the liquidity pools are set up in the main pairs. And on top of that, liquidity's thinned a lot. So it's like, it's even more volatile. It's just going to be extremely volatile moving forward, seems like. And we've had a lot of big hex bags and their stakes too, like Richard was saying, like the full stake Hitler today. So he's watching the chain clearly. He's watching the big players stakes, like clearly, because he knows about this. A lot of us know about it, right? So because you can just check and monitor these things. So yeah, it's just until the liquidity changes, it's just going to be like that. I think moving forward, it's just going to be extremely volatile. And luckily, a lot of people have been swapping their coins in. They've just been doing rotations, like ratio trading, basically between the cores. But if there was a huge bank run and a huge stable coin run, then it's like shit could really hit the fan. But also shit could really hit the fan on the upside if stables start getting just deployed and a lot of bridging happens, right? And FOMO ensues. So yeah, it can cut both ways very quickly. And sentiment can change very quickly too, I've noticed.
Yep. I mean, if you're long-term bullish, I guess this is the ultimate accumulation window because a lot of pieces have already been set in place.
Yeah.
And that is certainly, if you're on the bullish leaning side, certainly positive for future price action if things go your way and the stars align, which many in this community think that there's a good chance that at some point those things will happen. So.
Yeah, I mean, if nothing was happening, then I would be less bullish.
Yeah.
But now that things are moving, that's showing me that
once it did what the price close to doubled, and once these moves were being made, now obviously it's back to I guess 1.2 cents, but I mean it hit 2 cents there for a minute.
Well, we're still recovering from the bear market sentiment, like people are just used to selling because they've been rewarded for selling for so long, right? Like you've been rewarded for selling and then buying back cheaper, selling and buying back cheaper, and that's what a lot of people have been doing, right? And increasing their bags. But eventually, you would think that the whole ecosystem has to break out, or it's kind of just been chopping. If you just draw a big channel, right, it's kind of just been chopping in a very tight range. It's eventually going to break out one way or the other. Hopefully, it's to the side you like. For the long term. But yeah, that's pretty much all I got for you, for everyone. Let's see, any last minute things you wanted to cover, but you got the cat.
I was turning the mic off because this friendly little creature was meowing quite loudly. But yeah. Let me just go through. I think I started some stuff. Jay says, "Thank you, John Wick, for being such a legend in our community." I think many would say that. Thank you for educating people when you good accounted the OA stake before the last bull run. You are my hero. So you have a fan.
Appreciate it, Jay.
Many fans out there. I see you, Fast Abdul, with your shilling in the comments. Ink printer is launching soon. Immutable stable coin backed by RH's ink. No sacrifice. God. So yeah. I see he was
on Liquid to do a stable coin.
I think he was with might have been RG earlier.
Actually, it's highly tied to PulseX and Pulse. So I guess it could work. Could work.
Possible. Hex Features, which postcard design is your favorite so far? I think you can go to the website and check that out. So
I don't know, but I am going to be donating to the postcards in the near future.
Yeah.
I like to. I know it's very archaic and kind of slow and old school, but just trying things.
No, I have no problem with doing that either. I'm hesitant about that, and I've said this here on the show before. Until the headline risk is removed, I don't think there's any point in doing it, because people will get something in the mail and they're going to educate themselves about it no matter where the mail piece directs them. A lot of people will do their own research, and the headline risk is all over the place. So what is this PulseChain? And PulseChain founder is taking on the SEC right now, and it's like, okay, well, I just got this postcard that and this is what I'm looking up, and this is what these people are advertising. So I think the timing is a little off, but once that risk is resolved, I think it's a great time to do it, and I'll be a more vocal supporter of it.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it's, who knows the hit rate, or if it has done anything. The only thing we had like Jack Levin was like the only guy we got out of it, and who knows if that was a net positive. So, but at least I like targeting the rich areas. I'm sure 95% of people throw it out instantly. But it's like the grassroots. It's kind of how the community is, right? It's a grassroots community, word of mouth. A lot of people have onboarded their friends and family, right? It's like, it's still very, very niche. It's still like not a well-known chain. A lot of people in the community and the wider crypto community still don't take Richard seriously, or look at the allegations and then call him a scammer, right? Yep. It's very easy to just like see that and then instantly write it off. So, but who knows?
Accuse him of a $1.4 billion hack. Yeah, that's
because he deposited ETH into the Bybit one time. Yeah.
With all the lines crossing each other. I got you, Richard. Got you, man.
Yeah.
1.4 billion.
He says he's good. Richard says he's good, so that's good. Hopefully he stays safe. That's the biggest threat, right? Like, hopefully he stays safe. He's got everything under control. And just because the last cycle, like, onboarding was insane, right? At one point, like in 2021, especially, like, in order to get those parabolic moves, you need that everyone just super excited and exuberant about it, and to stake your app, refreshing it every day, just seeing how rich you are on paper. So, that kind of excitement, I think that will come back as the rest of the market recovers, and then retailers are kind of already involved in crypto, but like that can always expand, right? There's just so many people in the world. There's so many potential users, and once they see their stupid friends getting rich, that's kind of when it really heats up. That's you get the greed. The greed really kicks in, and it's like,
yeah, you mentioned it before. It's that green candle technology. So you were talking. People start looking at their apps more, and it does make it more exciting. I always joke that you see people come out of the woodwork on social media when you get green candles. Like, people that I haven't seen in years will reemerge because price go up. That is ultimately like the main thing, or one of the absolute main things that is a self-compounder in a sense, because more people get excited, more people start talking about it, word gets out there, it's more over the socials, and then it kind of feeds on itself. And that's the way it was in our first run up years ago. So it can happen again. It's just we'll see.
Yep. We need ETH to get its act together, and that'll be a good catalyst for sure. But I would like to see some more bridging the PulseChain. I don't see enough. Maybe Coast is kind of taken some of that and done it the centralized way, so I don't see that. But that would be good to see. New users obviously is important. But the green candle technology will hopefully take care of the rest, and hopefully everyone's patience will be rewarded, this cycle, because it's been a brutal bear market for a lot of people. But with what happened and how it all played out, that's 2018 was also very brutal too. So it wasn't like this is, depending on where you're at, it wasn't.
This is a prolonged brutal.
Yeah, it was prolonged. It's longer for sure, much longer.
Yeah. But if you're still here after all of it, then
you're here. Then
you're definitely
you're a community member.
That's a great way to put it. Yep.
You're never leaving.
You're stuck with us. Yeah. It's one of those trade turns into investment kind of things in the stock market. I bought it for a trade. It never went up, so now I'm a long-term investor in this
Just
name.
long-term investor, yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Well, all right, man. Well, thank you for coming on here. It was good talking to you offline and setting this up, and good to see your face, man. And
yeah, good to chat with you, man.
yeah,
Been
a lot
a while, hopefully
a lot of the community was happy to see you on here, so it was really cool, a nice surprise, and yeah, still we weren't able to have Shill Gates, but we had an OG in HEX in this ecosystem, so everybody was happy about that.
Yeah, he's a late comer.
Yeah,
but yeah, I'm glad it worked out. I was kind of just shouted you out of nowhere. Just saw you were streaming and I wanted to.
No, that's how a lot of them come to pass. Coffee did that a show or two ago. So and
Oh, nice.
he hopped on. He was like, "Hey, can I come on?" I was like, "Heck yeah, man!" So always got room for the G's. And speaking of G's, there's Hod Prill, and I got Franklin in the chat, Benny Blanco just going through us, all crypto stylists in there, Freddie Quotes is in there, day 43. See you all in the chat. So great to have you guys.
Yeah, good to see everybody. Hope everyone's well.
And
should be a good year, the rest of this year.
Yeah, we'll see. We usually just end the show on where we can find you, but you don't really like to be found.
No, you don't need to find me. You can find me on Telegram.
But we do this from time to time. We'll ask you we'll do like a favorite. We call it favorites. Just anything that any good show, favorite show right now, favorite book, anything that's just caught your eye in recent days, weeks, months that you think would be pretty cool for somebody to check out.
I don't have too much. I guess I kind of like Squid Game, the new season. That was pretty good.
Okay.
I'm gonna watch the new White Lotus. Did you see the first 2 seasons?
I did not. I just finished Lioness on.
Oh yeah, I heard that was pretty decent.
Where was it? Paramount, I believe it was, and it was actually it was pretty good. Zoe Saldana and the creator of Yellowstone. Wrote it, so it was actually very good. I was a little hesitant going in. I was like, it's just gonna be like, yay, girl power, and it's like really bad plots and stuff, but it was actually really, really good. Nicole Kidman's in it, so yeah, it's you'll recognize some other actors from other series as well. But yeah, that was my one.
Okay, yeah, I've heard that from a couple other people too.
So what's you said White Lotus, right?
Yeah, White Lotus.
I heard good stuff about the first couple seasons of that. So yeah,
I think it's pretty good. It's on HBO.
Yeah.
Solid.
Well, cool, man. Good stuff.
Good with you.
We'll wrap it here. I'll give Big K a shout out because he's still in the green room. Big K, thank you for joining us as always. My most favorite co-host in the world. I know you're not there, but I'm just shouting you out, good sir.
The Bong was calling him.
That's right.
Yeah, places to be.
Dinner time, or he had to go corral a child or something. But anyway, good stuff, man.
All right, man. Yeah, good to chat with you.
Yes, sir. And thank you, chat. Thank you for your participation. Next show, just as always, stay tuned on X, and we'll put out when we're on again. Thank you, everybody. We will see you next time.